At night, he'll read a fiction book, and that kind of helps the mind go to sleep, but also, kind of gives you some tunnel focus so that you can fall asleep. And it's done after I journal for things that are bothering me because I get it out. And I've noticed since doing that, I fall asleep so much better and I don't wake up in the middle of the night with the anxiety.
What are your daily habits, things you've done that have gotten you here and something you certainly want to implement moving forward?
I work out 5 days a week. So every day after I drop my kids off at school, I go to the gym like clockwork, and I make that an unassailable segment of my calendar. So I don't let anything interrupt that typically unless it's an absolute emergency. So that's become really, really important to me. And I think I started doing this when Colin was making fun of me about being fat when I first met him at one of the first meetups.
Sounds about right.
I remember him poking me in the belly and asking me if I ate cheeseburgers or something. But no, I've been doing that for almost 5 years now, and probably and arguably the best shape of my life, with some exceptions. But
wow.
I do that religiously, and I'm a big believer in it. I journal, and I used to do that 7 days a week. I don't do it as often now, and I know you and I talked about this recently, Colin, but that's been really good for me to just get my thoughts out of my head. Write down what I'm worried about currently, because it's fun to go back and see God, I was worried about that? What the heck? That was no big deal. But looking back at what you kind of milestones in your life, what your accomplishments were, what you were worried about at the time, and then any significant, breakthroughs that you've had. So I like time stamping that and going back. It's kind of fun just to see progress and your mindset change the more time you have removed from, a certain journal entry. Is funny, man. You go back to the whole thing where people say people underestimate how much you can accomplish in 5 years and they overestimate how much you can do in 1 year. So looking at the cumulative effect of that over a 5-year period is pretty astonishing.
Love that quote. I forgot who said that. That's somebody we should all know, but that's a great quote.
Yeah. So I think those two things are certainly helpful. I kind of go in fits and starts with meditation too. I just can't do it for very long. I'm like 5 minutes tops. Feels weird, but I like doing that because it kind of like helps me stay focused a little bit better. I'm not great at that, but it's something. If you make it a part of your discipline, your daily discipline, it can do, I could see how people can benefit from it. I'm just not great at doing it long term.
I think that non-negotiable is huge, man. That's good to hear.
Yeah, and then I think probably this isn't a daily thing, but it's a weekly thing for me. I try to meet with a new person in real estate in some capacity, whether they're experienced, new, middle of the road, agent, investor, wholesaler, some facet of real estate, once a week. And I look at that as my KPI. So I measure myself on that. And I can probably attribute 75 to 80% of my success and growth over the last 5 years solely to that practice and going to meetups, in-person meetups.
That's great.
Yeah.
Are you parlaying that meetup? What if you met somebody new at the meetup? Does that count?
Am I counting that?
Yeah.
I don't count that. I only count my one-on-ones.
So I always meet somebody new at those meetups.
Yeah. And, it's funny. I know you give me a hard time about, you meet anybody new today having cocktails and coffee and whatever, but I have made so many good relationships out of that with so many different, just varying levels of people. And the thing that's really cool is if I look back at people that I met 5 years ago that I had coffee with, there's some of them that are surpassed me by a long ways. I mean, you were brand new, not even 5 years ago, Colin, in this business.
I remember I was nervous to call you.
Yeah, and now look, I mean, you've done things that I will never accomplish with your businesses.
You surpassed him.
So
just not in height.
So.
Yeah. But those are some of my I would say key daily and weekly habits.
Like that. I like that new person.
Reading every day. I read every day without fail.
Gosh.
I have a nonfiction book and a fiction book going, and I read like maybe 10 pages of it.
So I have to ask on that because I just started reading fiction probably 2 months ago. I reread The 4-Hour Workweek, and Tim Ferriss said basically his whole thing is he doesn't add on too many books at once. So he has a nonfiction book, and that's typically more throughout the day, morning, Audible, etc. But at night, he'll read a fiction book, and that kind of helps the mind go to sleep, but also, kind of gives you some tunnel focus so that you can fall asleep. And it's done after I journal for things that are bothering me because I get it out. And I've noticed since doing that, I fall asleep so much better and I don't wake up in the middle of the night with the anxiety.
I fall asleep reading, so I read basically about 20-30 minutes before I go to bed, and it's always fiction. So it helps to kind of like clear out your mind, and I get immersive in a story. So whether I'm watching a movie or reading a book, I feel like I'm there.
So are you saying my Netflix and HBO habit before I go to bed is not productive?
It's the blue light's not very good for you.
Whatever works, man. Put on your blue light goggles and you'll be good, I think.
I'm jealous of you both, but that's awesome. I think that, certainly what I've learned from that is, and I've learned this just recently, like in the last 3 weeks, is block that on your calendar, make it non-negotiable. I love it, man.